The Hegemony's tribunals had processed 13 million surrender applications in the first 6 hours after the planetary pacification protocols concluded. By hour 7, not a single new petition had arrived. The conquest of Earth had been clinical. The Voratheen Hegemony specialized in administrative subjugation, no orbital bombardment, no mass casualties that might damage the labor pool. Their dropships had landed in every capital simultaneously, carrying not soldiers, but compliance officers armed with neural dampening fields and 3,000 years of galactic labor statute. Resistance was classified as a contractual violation. Fighting back meant breach of implied surrender terms, retroactive to the moment of their atmospheric entry. Within 48 hours, 8 billion humans were legally reclassified as resource personnel, our third category. The processing centers went live in Manhattan, Lagos, Shanghai, Sao Paulo. Humans lined up, filled out forms, submitted to catalog scans. The Hegemony's algorithms optimized each person's labor assignment with 97% efficiency. It had worked on 62 worlds. The Voratheen governance matrix publicly projected full operational control within 10 standard days. Their stock value climbed. Mining contracts were auctioned. Labor futures were traded across 17 exchanges. But someone forgot to tell the humans that submission paperwork was supposed to be sincere. The first anomaly appeared in the Hegemony's legal analytics division. A junior compliance auditor named Thress noticed that 84% of submitted labor contracts contained identical typographical errors in Section 9. On subsection 4.2, the word voluntary misspelled as violentary in 12 different languages. Statistical impossibility. Thress filed an inquiry. Then the food production report stalled. Earth's agricultural output had dropped to 11% of projected capacity. Not from sabotage. Every farm was operational. Every worker clocked in. But the humans had begun planting flowers. Decorative, non-nutritive flowers. Billions of them. When asked why, the workers cited Hegemony Agricultural Statute 447-G, which permitted cultural crop rotation for psychological sustainability. The Hegemony had written that exemption 4 centuries ago for a species that needed ritual gardens to prevent clinical depression during labor seasons. Humans weren't depressed. They were testing boundaries. The compliance centers reported a new problem. Humans were filing legal challenges, not violent resistance, formal procedural objections, 10,000 lawsuits per hour, each one targeting a different microscopic contradiction in Hegemony labor law. A sanitation worker in Berlin cited precedent case 8847-VEX to argue that his assigned shift violated maximum exposure limits for biological contaminants, technically true, by 0.003%. A teacher in Nairobi invoked the Hegemony's own education worker protection statute, which required cultural instruction privileges, and began teaching her students Hegemony legal code. The Voratheen legal system was designed to be perfect, self-referential, unbreakable. Every law connected to 6 others. Every precedent reinforced the structure. Humans had found the weight-bearing walls. By day 4, the Hegemony's judiciary network was processing 4 billion legal petitions. The AI arbitration systems began issuing contradictory rulings. A mining contract was nullified in Sector 7 because it violated a shipping regulation in Sector 12. An entire continent's labor assignments were suspended pending resolution of a calendar discrepancy. The Hegemony used a 441-day year. Earth used 365. Legally, no time-based contract could be enforced until reconciliation. The Voratheen governance matrix called an emergency session. The humans had done something no conquered species had ever attempted. They had read the terms and conditions, all of them. 3,000 years of Hegemony legal precedent, uploaded and distributed through every resistance network during the first 12 hours of occupation. lawyers, historians, students, or hackers, anyone who could parse regulatory language. They had found something the Voratheen had never imagined possible. The hegemony's laws were honest. Every protection, every exemption, every right granted to any species in 3 millennia, they were all real, enforceable. The Voratheen had never needed to lie because no one had ever fought them in court. Warfare was simple, compliance was expected, but Earth had no unified government to surrender, no central authority to sign capitulation. 8 billion individuals, each one a separate legal entity, each one filing motions. The Voratheen could not process them all, could not dismiss them, their entire authority derived from legal legitimacy. To ignore their own laws would shatter the compliance framework across 62 worlds. But to honor them meant confronting a contradiction the hegemony had never resolved. If the law protected workers, could workers be slaves? A human lawyer named Okoye Adeyemi transmitted a single document to the governance matrix. Not a threat, not a weapon. A motion for declaratory judgment, citing Hegemony Statute 3 Alpha. No sapient being may be subjected to labor conditions they have not freely negotiated. The hegemony had written that law themselves, centuries ago, to prevent a trade dispute. It had never been tested against an entire planet that refused to negotiate. He, Voratheen, withdrew at 4:17 Universal Time, 11 days after arrival. Not from military defeat, from legal checkmate. Their compliance network had crashed under the weight of 8 billion individual cases, each one technically valid, and their judiciary AI had issued a preliminary ruling that quarantined Earth pending resolution, estimated processing time, 6,000 years. The governance matrix made the calculation, abandon Earth or abandon the legal framework that held their empire together. They chose the empire. The dropships lifted in silence. No battle, no final stand, just the sight of 1,000 transport craft rising into a sky full of flowering fields, leaving behind 8 billion labor contracts, all null and void, scattered across empty processing centers like fallen leaves. The hegemony classified Earth as a prohibited zone, not from fear of human weapons, from fear of human lawyers. In the archives of 73 conquered worlds, the word began to spread, not through rebellion, but through legal filings. Humans had sent them copies of every motion, and every precedent, every argument, instructions, in 600 languages. The Voratheen's own laws turned into tools of liberation. On Earth, Okoye Adeyemi stood in an empty compliance center in Lagos, looking at the abandoned workstations. Someone had left a hegemony labor contract on the desk, unsigned. She picked it up, read the fine print one last time, and smiled. Humanity had done what no empire expected. They had won by reading.